Aye.
Any opposed, please say no. Any abstentions? And the motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Going now into our reports and recommendations. For the chair's report, I don't really have too much to update the committee on besides what we're going to be talking about during actual business today. Long story short, I had a lot of conversations with members of the Nevada Student Alliance, my counterparts from across the state of Nevada. And the common theme that I got essentially from these conversations is that having a 52-member council that meets only once a month for about an hour and a half at a time is not sustainable going forward, especially as the state becomes more complex in the education policy space, and we have to meet the needs of a growing, very diverse graduate professional student body. And so, as part of sort of an electoral reform or transition into an actual direct election of our representatives on the council, we could possibly expect more of our councilors, expect them to go to at least a couple of meetings per month with the council. That way, they can actually take the time to hash out a lot of these larger policy discussions rather than waiting for like a month-long period before we can get feedback from the council. Because otherwise we're relying a lot on either the president's discretion in a lot of these policy debates, or we're relying on the executive board to take an advisory position, but the executive board can't take an official legislative position on really anything regarding NSHE or UNLV. So this is just a way to make sure that the council is actually functioning as a legislative body of the GPSA, and that's sort of like the background that I wanted to give you all today. But that's it for the reports before we get into actual business. Do we have any reports from business managers for CINA? No?
No reports at
All
this
right.
time.
Thank you. We had no unfinished business, so we will skip item 6. Going now into item 7, there is possible action within this item, so I will entertain a motion to open item 7 for discussion.
Baylor Akavan, I motion to open the item for discussion.
Thank you. Motion to open item 7 for discussion made by committee member Akhavan. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Second made by committee member Lee. All those in favor, please say aye or yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say no or nay. Any abstentions? Thank you. Motion carries unanimously. At this time, I will also entertain a motion to suspend Robert's rules for the duration of item 7.
Baylor Akavan, I motion to suspend Robert's rules.
Thank you. Motion to suspend Robert's rules made by committee member Akhavan. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Second made by committee member Lee. All those in favor of suspending Robert's rules at this time or for the duration of item 7, please say yes or aye.
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 Any opposed, please say no or nay. Any abstentions? All right, thank you. Motion to suspend Robert's rules carries unanimously. All right. So for the duration of this meeting, again, since Robert's rules are suspended, we can sort of have a more conversational style amongst us. We don't have to ask for actual recognition or anything like that. But please try to also just mention your name for the minutes. That might be a little bit easier for our vice chair to keep track of that. But I probably won't be going much into the bylaws today. It'll just be mostly constitutional talk today. But I do have this ready to go. So actually not picking up from where we left off. I'm going to go back a little bit to where we were discussing before. So last committee meeting, we got a little bit through the legislative branch Article 2 revisions. In here, we identified the powers of the legislative branch to be specifically adopting legislation pertaining to the welfare of students. The GPSA Council shall have the power to form committees, also have the power to impanel an ad hoc grievance review, and that the council is by definition impaneled with legislative and judicial powers, no executive powers. Those are reserved only for the executive branch. Section 2, representatives. This is probably where we can actually sort of change or play around with the electoral system for GPSA. As I mentioned before, business managers first.
Will you do a screen share?
Oh, is it not screen sharing?
I don't see.
Uh-oh.
Oh, that's interesting.
Oh, I wonder if it's this host versus co-host thing. Hang
Sorry
on.
about that.
I'm going to see if there's a setting down here that I need to change or something. Since you're supposed to be able to
Can you see it now?
Yes, I can see it now. Thank you.
Oh, okay.
It was on our end. My end. I just had to give you permission to share your screen. Which I thought code was that, but I guess not. Sorry.
Got it. Thank you.
Mhm.
All right, yeah. So just to go back a little bit, Article 2 of the constitutional updates that we have, originally titled Officers, is now going to be retitled to the Legislative Branch. Section 1 describes our powers. GPSA Council is given legislative and judicial powers, no executive powers. That's specifically for the executive branch. GPSA Council shall adopt legislation pertaining to the welfare of all currently enrolled graduate professional students. GPSA Council shall form committees, including an ad hoc grievance review committee with judicial power. And then further responsibilities are outlined later in the article. Section 2, representatives, is where most likely we are going to be able to institute some reforms to the electoral process. Section 2, sub 1 is actually where we talk about the composition of the council, and we say specifically that each department or area that has graduate professional degrees within it is offered one seat on the council, meaning 52 seats currently. However, this is where we can actually play with the language and actually we can strike most of this and just actually institute an electoral direct electoral system for representatives. Um, I'll start with maybe some of the concerns that have been brought up to me. If we did do this transition, the first one is what would happen to very small programs, especially for one instance, during the council meeting last week, the representative from World Languages and Cultures was very worried that their very small department within the liberal arts, within the College of Liberal Arts, would be either overridden or sort of washed out by very large departments like psychology and English. And then there's similar situations with different departments across all these different colleges and schools. So that's one major concern. And then the other concern also was whether the professional schools, specifically medicine, or possibly even dental, since they are smaller in actual enrollment numbers compared to the rest of the graduate professional student population, that they also would be drowned out. Um, One of the ways that we could get around this is, well, obviously we would have a minimum number of seats per college of one. I would need to find out what the actual enrollment numbers are roughly for all of our colleges and schools. I don't have that information off the top or available right now. So over the next few weeks, I will actually get that data and start put together at least a simple formula of how we allocate these seats. But we have 15 colleges and schools that are currently granted representation during the summer term. So if we were to grant just one seat per college and just make it equal that way, that would be just 15 seats. But of course, in some of these early conversations, I had mentioned moving to a proportional system where it's not necessarily proportional by the number of programs within the college or school, but rather proportional by the number of total enrolled students, graduate professional students by each college and school. Um, and so I don't really necessarily know where that would leave us with total number of seats per college right now, but I can definitely have that ready for the next time that we meet. Um, but yeah, so that's like some of the initial thoughts. I want to see if you all had any thoughts on it. I also have thoughts on the actual electoral system if we did decide to move to direct elections. Um, yeah, I'll just open it up for any discussion right now in case anyone has any initial thoughts.
Trying to learn how to spell proportion. Okay, got I think that works, but it is by enrollment, which is what you're suggesting, right?
Yeah, yeah, when I'm talking about proportional, I mean only enrollment numbers. I definitely wouldn't want to make it proportional by um like number of programs or number of departments. Um, yeah.
Okay.
I think that's fair because I think overall like GPSA should be representing like the bulk of the students that are actually a part of the organization. I think if it's proportional, I think that will best serve them as a whole. I mean, I don't know how that like smaller programs will feel in the long run and getting their voice heard, but I think that'd be like the one downside of that.
Yeah, that's the one concern I keep hearing get brought up. And so actually that's so one of the ways that we can address this is through the actual electoral system that we adopt. Obviously, if there's going to be multiple seats per college, we would need to figure out a way to do an election that's not just the person with the most votes wins, because there would be multiple seats that we would need to fill. And so I will actually move now into a quick discussion of actual electoral systems. Um, I will try not to use all of my political science jargon and try to break it down so that it's like applicable to a student council or student government context. Um, but- so essentially, here's the presenting problem that we have that can be addressed by the political science electoral systems literature. Our current problem is that we are worried that within colleges, let's say, and I'm using entirely hypotheticals, I'm not using actual data on this, but let's say there's hypothetically a College of Liberal Arts election that they can elect up to 4 different seats on the council. Let's say psychology and English are also the largest departments within the College of Liberal Arts, and by definition would be most likely to get a seat onto the council if everyone just voted in unity based upon their department. In the political science world, we would just call this essentially parties, where the political party that you're identifying with is your individual department, even though technically we don't use parties, we're just going to use that as a stand-in. And so, in order to break this potential concern of every department of voting essentially as its own political party in our council, we can adopt what is called a single transferable vote system or a single non-transferable vote system. For the minutes, this is either STV, single transferable vote, or single transferable vote, SNTV. STV has been established in Ireland. Ireland is probably the most successful example of the use of this system. Essentially, they have district sizes of anywhere from 3 to 5, and they use this one single electoral system across the entire country. There is a very small quota that a person needs to reach in order to get elected into at least one of those several seats. And that quota is usually determined by a formula of all in one parentheses, let's say the total number of votes cast divided by the total number of seats plus one. You take that full formula and then add another one vote on top of that. And that is your final quota that you need to reach in order to get elected to a seat. Once a candidate is elected in that seat, then any oh yes.
Sorry. I'm trying to mentally understand. Can you help me make it like a little bit more relevant the way Ireland does it? Like, how does that compare to like our electoral college right now, where it's like this kind of situation? Can you just like, can you give me some comparisons just to help me understand the Irish system a little bit more?
Yeah, so the Irish system is essentially a one of its own kind sort of systems. No other country has really adopted it. But in relation to let's say the United States, if we were to adopt the United States model of representation, then we would just say we would essentially be running 52 different elections by each of our departments. What Ireland does is instead of having these very small districts with only one person per district, they are slightly larger districts by population size, and they get multiple seats allocated to that single district. And then the individual ballot that people are given when they actually go to vote, you get every single name listed on your ballot, and it's essentially a ranked choice voting system where you put your ranked choice number one. Let's say there's 10 candidates, you can rank as many as 10 candidates on your list. Ranking more candidates obviously means that you get more chances that someone you prefer is going to be elected. If you vote only for your top preference and then you don't vote for anyone else, either on second, third, however far down the list, if you only vote for first choice, they get eliminated. Then your vote doesn't go anywhere and it's essentially spoiled. So it's a system where we encourage people to rank as many possible options on their ballot as they would like to. It gives them choice and it gives them flexibility to vote for other departments that are not necessarily just their own department. Or in political science, this would be essentially breaking the parties. We don't want people to be voting solely based upon their department. This electoral system would encourage more cross-department or intra-college collaboration across departments. Because, of course, these seats are not going to be representing people from different colleges. They're going to be only representing people from other departments within their specific college or school.
So college, it would be essentially the districts in this example.
Mhm.
So you going back to liberal arts example, since that one's the one with the most different departments. So you're saying that like if we had a handful of people, let's say one's from anthropology, one's from psychology, one's political science, and maybe there's somebody from English, these are the four people that people would have to, these are the four seats. And then people could rank all of the options that they want to fill those four seats.
Yeah. So let's say there's
English in this example, or no?
oh, sorry, could you say that again?
Could there potentially be like two people from English in this example?
So there could be that there is a possibility for that to happen,
Mhm,
but with electoral systems, we can kind of create any constraints or restrictions that we want to.
mhm,
So in my discussion with the professor in my department, who is sort of throwing out all these different options that we have, um, the STV system can still be constrained to a point where you can say that, hey, if you have 5 seats available for College of Liberal Arts, let's say,
mhm,
once one person from a specific department gets elected, let's say psychology, if someone
mhm.
from a psychology gets elected and there's other psychology people on the ballot, only the one psychology person with the most amount of votes would be elected, giving other departments an opportunity to be represented. Of
That
course,
would
that
be
would
on the
require,
list.
yeah, of course, that would require people to, it would require people to run for seats that are still available, and to be not psychology students.
Mhm,
But we could put contingencies in there and saying like, hey, if there's like we give priority to non-psychology students once a psychology seat has been already appointed. Um, but then if there's no other available seats to be filled by other departments within the College of Liberal Arts, then it would just go back to electing the psychology students that did actually get the votes. But that would be a pretty rare case because there should be enough votes, at least in the ranked order ballots, that gives enough votes to non-psychology departments if we were to impose that restriction.
okay, okay.
Another possible system, not to throw out
Yeah,
too
yeah.
much right now, but another possible system is the single non-transferable vote. This is a system that was used by Japan for a little bit during the 1900s, the late 1900s, I believe also by Taiwan for a little bit, but is only currently used, I believe, by the state of Jordan, out in the Middle East. Um, I will preface this by saying that SNTV within the political science literature is known for being used by authoritarian governments to break party ties amongst their own legislature, and to like remove opposition to the dictator. However, I'm not saying that that GPSA is functioning as a dictatorship, but
Mhm.
that it could help solve some of the problem of departments combining together in order to essentially just become political parties of the department.
Well, you
Um,
also have the benefit that dictators can't really stick around here because you're either going to get pushed out because you didn't
right.
graduate, or we have automatic turnover.
Right. Yeah. So then, yeah, it's a really good point. So then the way that SNTV works compared to STV, rather than having, so once in the main difference for STV is that once one candidate gets elected, there any excess votes that they have get reallocated to the second preference person listed on those ballots of the excess ballots. It can dep it the way we actually determine which ballots get transferred to the next person versus which count towards going to their first preference, that can be a decision of the Elections Commission if we decide to go this route. But instead of being reallocated under the STV system, the SNTV system, non-transferable, says that it's essentially the top vote getters across the board get elected. So this would be most similar to the U.S. House of Representatives. In this case, we would essentially be saying instead of Nevada having 4 different districts that we would be voting in, we would just have 4 seats that we vote on at the statewide level for Nevada, and um, the top four vote gainers are the ones that are ultimately elected to the seat. So there's no listing of rank preferences. There's no really any other stipulations to it. It's essentially just saying, hey, the top 4 people to get votes in this entire election across all votes cast are the ones that get elected to the seat. And so this could break the problem a little bit because if we had multiple people from the same department, it would be very unlikely that, let's say, I don't know why I'm using psychology,
Mhm.
but I don't know. I'm going to pick on psychology today. Let's say we had 5 members running from psychology, or 6 members from psychology running for 5 seats. It would be very, very unlikely based upon the literature in political science, just based like on human behavior and voting patterns and stuff like that, it would be very, very unlikely that psychology would be able to coordinate well enough that they would be able to split their votes in a manner that guarantees them all five of those seats. SNTV, because it's known as like the party breaking system, it's a way for people to say like, hey, you can still vote for your top preference in psychology. Maybe two of them get elected out of the five. Yeah, two out of the five seats are filled by psychology people. But it's still very unlikely that they would be able to coordinate well enough that they get all five of those seats actually elected. It would be most likely that someone from like world languages, political science, anthropology, they would be able to coordinate enough outside of psychology that they could at least get one seat on the council, and be able to represent some of the smaller programs.
Can you run me through another example, just using the SNTV model with the psychology thing we were just talking about, just trying to visualize it?
Mhm. Yeah, so sort of if we were
Can I get him an example?
to break it down to like the smallest college size for college would be one. Oh, mhm.
Oh,
Oh,
sorry.
I
It
was
broke.
gonna
My connection
use
broke
what
up too.
they told me in when I did the ranked choice voting training. You have five M&Ms. They're all different colors, but instead of just getting one M&M color per seat, right? You actually get two, or maybe three. So instead of like everyone's a different color, you get two people who are the same color. Like there's two reds that are running for the seat, right? But in a a single transferable voting system, instead of saying only one of you red people can, or one red M&M can get in, actually two red M&Ms can actually get in. They got the most votes. So if the two M&Ms got the most votes, and even if they're the same color, then we still got to get them in.
So what about the part where we were saying that like when the people, so the votes are cast, let's say there's 100 votes and there's 5 seats, just to make it easy. So there's
Mhm.
100 votes out there. We have 5 seats. And what you were saying that the votes, yeah, they would
The
go down
quota.
to the next seat. Can you explain that part again?
Yeah, so I will type it into the chat right here. So the equation that I'm going to put in is um, you do the parentheses equation, which is going to be total number of votes divided by number of seats plus one, and then you add one extra vote to meet that quota. So let's say we were to put an actual case into this, 100 votes divided by um, 5 seats for liberal arts. So that would be 6 in the denominator. Then you add plus 1 to that. Um, I don't have very quick
Oh,
math.
so the plus one that comes from the math in some way.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, it's called the Droop quota, DROOP. If anyone's interested in actually looking up the math behind it, but that's the quota, the system that was used to determine Ireland's vote quota before they decide to transfer votes out to other candidates. Um,
It's to make sure that there's no draws.
mhm. And it's also meant to be the minimum number of votes needed for every candidate for every candidate but one to be elected. Yeah, so like in this case, if we had 100 votes cast across 5 different seats, we would need 18 votes to qualify for someone to be elected to that position. If they got over 18 votes in that first
Sorry.
round,
I'm still trying
oh,
to, I'm back up. Hang on. So we got 100 people voting, and we're saying that's going to be divided by with the droop quota. Is that still a single non-transferable thing?
no, so the quota is only for STV, the transferable vote. The
Oh, okay.
SNTV, non-transferable, just means straight up that um, votes are not reallocated, they're not moved anywhere. It's just you get one vote, and the top vote getters. Let's say there's 4 seats available. The four people with the most votes are elected outright. There's no transfers or
Oh,
anything. Whereas with the transferable vote,
but everybody who's voting only gets to vote for the one human that they want,
right,
or
whereas
the one M&M
STV,
color that they want, which is why you're saying that it would be really difficult for one department to
mhm,
get enough votes to fill all the seats unless that department was just utterly massive and the other one's
right.
tiny.
Yeah, and I think by sheer number, I don't think we have any department that would be like 50% of a huge college like liberal arts. Um, but
Mhm.
yeah, so like going back to the hypothetical, if we had 100 votes cast across 5 seats, that would be 100 divided by 5, and then you add +1 to that. So it would be 100 divided by 6. Then you do that math, it leads to about 16.7. And then on top of that, you add an extra one at the very end, and that gives you 18 votes are needed to be elected to a seat. Um, and so again, if with STV, if you were to say one psychology person reached that 18 vote threshold, then
Mhm.
no other psychology people would be eligible to win a seat unless there were simply no other people from other departments that were running that election. We
Wait,
could
sorry.
put that.
So what does the
Oh,
18 part mean?
so the 18. So based upon this formula, if we had 100 votes cast for 5 different seats, that would
Mhm.
put us at 17.6, or sorry, 17.7, which we would just round up to 18 votes. Um, Once one single person crosses that 18 vote threshold,
Mhm.
then they are already elected to that position. So let's say seat number one was a psychology person and they received 34 out of 100 votes. All 30
Okay.
or the first 18 votes would be counted, and then the rest of the votes after 18 would be transferred out to someone else. And that process repeats basically um, until all 5 of those seats are filled. So
How does it get
that's
transferred to the other groups? Sorry.
sorry, what was that?
Oh, how does so the other votes? So 18 votes count to the first person.
Mhm.
How do the other votes? How do we determine that the other votes go where? Just to the next person with the highest votes.
So yeah, since the ballot is structured as rank order preferencing, let's say like psychology candidate one was their first preference, then they would put like political science candidate one as their second preference, and then anthropology candidate one as their third preference. So based upon who they order in their second, third, fourth, however many preference, that's where it gets transferred out to. Um, Ireland is a bit weird where basically they just say, oh, we count until someone reaches that quota, and then we just start counting off the top of the next box, goes to the next person. So it's really kind of just by chance, I guess, sort of like which ballots get actually redistributed out. But statistically, it's argued that like it doesn't really matter who you start with because eventually you would expect people of the voting for the same first preference candidate but probably voting for similarly down for like second, third, and fourth preferences.
So,
Um,
like, if second, third, and fourth, let's say the second person gets, well, hypothetical 15 votes, and then the next person has 13. Like, are you saying that the first person gets 30 votes, and then the extra goes down to the next person to where they get 18, and then it goes down again and down again
mhm. Yeah,
until the top
yeah,
one?
once you reach that 18 vote quota,
Mhm.
then you get no more votes are counted towards you, and everything else just gets redistributed.
Okay.
Um, so that's where we could have some trouble if we don't put any stipulations on the system. If we adopted STV and then didn't say like um, no more than one seat can be represented by the same department. If we didn't put that in there, it's feasible that people could have their rank preferences be their top four are all psychology, and then just based upon the way that those votes transfer out, 4 of those seats actually get given to psychology, and then there's one person from sociology or something
Mhm.
out of those 5 seats. So that's where the danger could come in if we don't put a stipulation like that. Um, then there's of course, then there's the other system, SNTV, where essentially it's just we would rely on people not coordinating well enough within their department, but there's not really anything we can do to say that like
Mhm.
we're capped on the number of people from a certain department that can be represented.
And personally, I go back and forth on whether or not to put caps like that. Like, I think all the time about that phrase, like decisions are made by those who show up. So if there's a lot of
Hmm.
people who are actively involved from one department, obviously you don't want there to be people who don't get the information and the resources, but you also, I mean, if people want it, they're going to do a job versus telling people that you just need somebody to sit in a chair.
Hmm.
There, it's one of those sides where it's like, okay, I could see this being a spot where people could abuse this. I could also see it being something where it would be beneficial because we'll have people who are actively interested.
Hmm. Yeah, luckily with electoral systems, there's almost always a variant of something that can like address the presenting problem that we have. Um, so yeah, in this case, our presenting problem is just how do we make sure that the smaller departments are represented, and how do we make sure that the largest departments within colleges are not just going to steamroll everyone else. And so these are probably our best two options. So I just wanted to present it to you all just to see what your thoughts were before I actually start drafting what the actual system would look like. So yeah, are there any other questions on this,
I mean,
on
well,
all the electoral stuff?
um, maybe. Um, Thinking about it just from like a genuinely a how do we execute if we do this change?
Hmm.
So right now we go through the involvement center for elections. I go back and forth with like even like rank voting. I go back and forth because I don't think rank voting should be that difficult as long as the people are given the resources that they need in order to make a somewhat a quasi informed decision.
Hmm.
As long as it's not like too heavy. But I also don't want to discourage people from voting, especially in student government elections where it's I mean when it comes to like presidential elections and statewide elections, I think rank voting is the way to go because I just think people need to be informed when you're doing major decisions like that. I think the same way with student government, but grad students are already like some of them don't even know they have two email addresses. Like it's how do we execute if we do rank versus something else? Then also how do we inform departments of the changes? Because a lot of departments might even have in their own bylaws a representative. So we'd have to give them more than enough notice to be able to change their bylaws because a lot of those folks hold elections around like March to determine who their next GPSA rep is going to
Hmm.
be, which is phenomenal. I love the departments who do that. Also, how does this work with the professional schools? They have a few systems in place. Usually somebody gets elected from their own student government and that's their representative. So do we want to take that into account? Is that going to be different?
So the actual, I mean, I would be wary about doing anything with like actual nomination processes if we were to incorporate like the law school or the med school's like own internal process. If we were to take up this reform and do direct election of representatives across colleges and schools, it would
Mhm.
essentially just be a centralized electoral system run by GPSA rather than run by 52 different departments. Um, the problem with rank choice is that the elections commission would essentially have to sit down and like hand count what those ranks are, what those rank order preferences are once someone is elected. I'd imagine there could be something we collaborate with IT on that just like does that for us, that we could like just automate that process. Um,
Let me show you actually what it looks like on the involvement center side. I can go into like a past election.
Can I mention something?
Yeah.
mhm,
In the past, in 2020, I counted all the ballots for Clark County. So for the actual elections department, what we done is kind of like Scantron voting. They can do it via Scantron. The second process is that when I was making the law for online voting, what you can do is send them a link, make that choice, but just like how you sent us for like the when to meet, same thing for them to select their top five and did different colors. Top green would be the most preferred, etc. People can pick it out. There's an online system for it. And then what happens is they get a copy of their votes, and then you also get the copy too. That can be sent out for both. But either way, there's easier processes. And CSUN also does it online as well.
Yeah, so that we do it the same way as CSUN. We all go through this involvement center and I'm signing in right now. I'm trying to decide right now if I want to do um how do I want to do this? Sorry, give me 1 second. I'm trying to because I don't want to share names, but I want you guys to see what a ballot looks like.
Yeah, at least on my end, I like the idea of a ranked system just because I feel like in terms of an election, the people who are the most enthusiastic about the position are probably going to be voted in, hopefully, ideally voted in.
mhm.
But at least from like the med school standpoint, I do know that our GPSA represent council member, he won a student election, and then that's how he was basically appointed to be part of GPSA. So I just wonder how that would, and I'm sure there's other schools with similar processes. So I'm just wondering, like, the same thing. Like, I like the idea of a rank system. I'm just wondering, like, how do you how do you balance that with the like the current structure?
I mean, it's kind of sounds like if they are already winning a student election within the med school, I'd imagine that they would be pretty the outcome would be pretty similar if GPSA were to run the election for the med school. So like I know you guys probably have your own internal things that you are electing people for, and then they're appointed to GPSA based on that. It would essentially just be redoing that election, which I know probably a lot of people don't want to do, but we would just have to have some type of standard for everyone across the board. Um, so I'd imagine the results would be pretty similar to what currently already exists with the med school.
We also have to make it
Yeah.
feasible on GPSA too, because we do have turnover. Let's say there's a scenario where you guys don't have the GPSA manager, because I mean, elections are heavy. They are heavy processes. And
Mhm.
I want it to be something that is also sustainable with especially like staff turnover times. I don't want it to be something that falls through the cracks if there's a lot of pieces that have to get handled. We don't want to reinvent the wheel in certain, like if there is a group that already has a very strong established structure. I mean, we could write it in that those structures, we could write in those structures. That way it's embedded in their own spaces and within GPSAs.
I know this is gonna sound pretty different,
What's that?
but my suggestion is to do the rank with NSTV, where you just get the top people and then write it in constitution or either bylaws for whatever elections to just say if a college has more than 20 people voting, then whatever they voted for that candidate transfers over to GPSA. Like if you keep the bare minimum to 20 for every single college, then that means there's actually people participating and there's people that actually care enough to have that person actually be in the seat. And it transfers those votes over. And then for anything else that doesn't have that, then you can run what GPSA wants to.
So the 20 vote minimum for
Their department, so our college. So if their college
Mhm.
is doing their own elected system, as long as they get 20 people, then all their votes that they get from there gets allocated over. So they start off with a good 20 already. But as long as they have a minimum of 20. So if they have less than 20 and they're still doing it for their own college, right? And let's say liberal arts, right? Or let's say medicine or dental,
Mhm.
both have people that vote, and one person couldn't get 20 votes, they technically have a second chance to get the entire student body to start voting for them rather than their college. But 20 votes should be a bare minimum, because if you can't get 20 people to vote, then that's kind of like,
Oh,
yeah.
there would be there would be no university-wide voting for these seats. All the voting would be taking place within the individual colleges. So like
Mhm.
I, as a liberal arts student, I would only be able to vote for the representatives running on the College of Liberal Arts ticket. Um, so I don't think it would be able to be transferred out to like a general GPSA vote pool.
Okay, then. Well,
So here's what, so I just shared, because this is already a public document, I shared this one in the chat. I don't really want to actually turn on my screen for the involvement center just because there's just more data in there. I don't mind doing it like a one-on-one with the group here, but I just don't want to do it on a public meeting because I just don't want to. Yeah, I don't know. It's election information. I just don't know how much of that I should share for individual people. But like this is the outcome of the executive board election from 2022, 2023. Now, given one person ran for each seat, but like let's pretend that this was our example from before where this was one college and all of these people were running. But this gives you a really good idea of what the involvement center looks like. So when people log in, we set up the election ahead of time. When people actually log in, they will see. Let me see if I find. Actually, let me see if I find another one that has two people who ran for a seat. Oh, hang on one second. Sorry, guys. Mm. Mm. We need an election where more people ran. One moment, hold on. Ah, the last election here, Devin. Perfect.
Oh yeah.
We had a bunch of people run for treasurer and for secretary. So literally in the involvement center, it will count each individual vote. So when it came to like, I don't know how to do rank order. I'm sure it's possible in here. I've never set it up that way through involvement center. So I'm sure there's a way to do it. But like this is what it would look like. So it would see the total number of votes cast in the election, and then how many were allocated to each seat or each position, each role. We could call it a seat in our scenario. And also Nevada law does require a none of the above option.
Mhm. But by Nevada law, also, if none of the above wins, then it just goes to the person with most votes.
Right, right. Yeah, you literally need one vote.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, if there is a concern about logistically how we would run a ranked choice system, then SNTV would probably be our best bet. Um, because again, that's a system where no votes are transferred. It's just simply the people with the most votes after all votes are tallied, those people win. And by the political science literature, we should not expect people to be able to coordinate well enough that they would be able to steamroll the entire college and get all people from their department to be able to be elected representatives. Um, we could play with an idea of saying that a like a maximum of one seat can be filled by someone from a specific department if there's multiple seats to be elected. Um, so yeah, we could play with different provisions like that, but if we're concerned about the actual calculation of ranked votes, then SNTV would be much easier, and it would just be essentially an executive board election, but just with quite a few more votes cast.
Honestly, I think, especially for council, I think, and this might be more work for Devin, but is there any way you could put together some kind of like a summary or like a memo, some kind of like 2-page memo on the pros and cons, like
Hmm.
explaining what each would be of the two options that you provided. So you've given us two options basically, and then give a argument for each, and then an argument against each. And then people can make better informed decisions, especially when it comes to like council, because council's gonna have to approve these bylaw changes
Yeah.
and constitutional changes too. So I think, yeah. And then we could always use examples like these. So like in this one, you're saying that the rank voting would say, oh, let's pick on secretary. Um, people would literally have to say, I choose this person to be first, second, third.
Yeah, and
Then
there's no requirement also that people have to rank multiple options. They can rank only one if they want to,
does
or
the
they can
rank
rank
get like,
up.
do they get points or something? Like they get 3 points if they're ranked number one? Like how does that work? How do you count that?
There are there are some systems that do weighted voting, but I don't think that we would have we wouldn't have the lit math and a lot of it would require a lot of time for every single election that we would run with that. Like the closest I think that I can think of would be, I think Poland uses some type of weighted voting, or at least they give people multiple votes that they can cast. Um, but if we gave people multiple votes, then that would possibly just get us back to the situation where like psychology students would just spread all their votes out equally amongst all the psychology candidates, and then all of them get elected to those seats. So that's why I would probably be wary of putting any weights or multiple, like allowing people multiple votes in the election. I think if we do the single vote, either transferable or non-transferable, that should be able to get around a lot of the concern about large departments dominating elections.
Okay.
And by most statistical analyses of electoral systems, STV and SNTV are the most representative of um, voters' preferences broadly.
How do they know that? How do the political scientists know that?
They essentially just look at the proportion of votes cast for the person's favored political party on like their number one rank, and then when they calculate based upon that number one rank versus the actual proportion of seats held by that party
Mhm.
in the legislature, STV and SNTV by far is the most proportional or most representative of what the voters cast. Whereas like the American system, our first past the post single member districts is I believe the most unrepresentative system with about a 20-point gap between what voters vote for and who ultimately is elected.
So what about the interdisciplinary students? Those we do have a seat for currently.
Mhm.
How do they fit into this?
So everyone within those programs would still technically be they're not housed under a separate under like multiple colleges, are there? Are they? They're just housed under the grad college.
So they're housed under the grad college, but the program itself is ran through different units that are just basically co-advising these students. So it depends on the program. So like one of them might be the master's in cybersecurity. So those folks probably are taking classes under the College of Engineering through the cybersecurity program, but they're also taking a number of classes through the business school, and depending on their area of focus, they may be taking more classes in business or more classes in cybersecurity, but they belong to both colleges. And therefore, that's why the graduate college is overseeing that program, because one, like business school and engineering, since it's so divided, can't oversee it themselves. It has to go to a group that can oversee both sides of the program.
Got it.
Thing with like actually, okay, so there's also a PhD in neuroscience. There's a lot of folks who think that they're in like psychology because they take tons of psychology classes, but then they also take a ton of
Mhm.
over at the med school. So and then they might even take, it depends on their area of focus, they might be taking classes within maybe the College of Sciences, some of the other departments too. So that's why it's considered literally interdisciplinary, because one department can't oversee the program themselves. That's why it falls to the graduate college.
There would be there probably wouldn't be any issue there then, right? Because we at least have some type of information that would qualify people that says like they are part of an interdisciplinary program, so therefore they qualify for this specific election slash ballot. Um,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
because it's not like
Oh,
it's not a system where we're decentralizing and giving discretion to the individual colleges and schools.
Mhm.
Everything is going to be run by GPSA essentially through one fairly big election that takes only a couple days. And so, yeah, again, if it's logistics and like time resources that we're worried about, then SNTV would be the most beneficial, um, with the opportunity to still put some stipulations about multiple people from the same department and whatever. We could still put those restrictions in. Um, but yeah, no, I can also put together a memo, just like a short description of what the STV versus SNTV would spell out for GPSA, um, and essentially what the full proposal of the electoral reform would look like.
That would be, honestly, that would be really helpful, I think, for people to just
Mhm.
be able to read through it and understand it. Um,
I can
it's
also,
like I feel like this is a lot to understand.
yeah, no, yeah, I get it. I baked myself in this literature last year before
Um,
my comprehensive exam, so like it's very, and I
fresh.
realize that other people are not as well read on these systems as I am. But yeah, so yeah, I can definitely do that, and have that ready. I can also invite um, one or two of our electoral systems scholars in the political science department to come talk to the committee as well, if you all would like that.
I love that, actually.
They probably won't be available until later January though.
Okay. So I'm putting another thing in the chat right now. So this is called just school department drill down, because it's literally the list that we upload into Qualtrics whenever we do departmental like drill downs. Like if you pick your college, then you pick your department.
Hmm.
Something we upload, but this is the clean list for this year of all of the departments. And then there's an other option, because it's when you have software data, it's you always put an other option, even though I'm confident these are the schools. So it just flags which students don't know what department they're in. But it's
Oh,
all,
got it. Okay.
so you can kind of, you can, like, honestly, for this purpose, we can ignore the others, because
Hmm.
this is the list. It also includes the grad college. ones. It should include the grad college ones where you pull down. Hang on, let me see if they're on here.
I think I'll get the refund back. Do you know?
Graduate college,
Oh,
interdisciplinary people.
I'm not filling a meeting.
Hang on, I'm gonna resend this list. I don't see the grad college interdisciplinary people on this. Hold, please. But then what I also can
No,
send,
thank you.
I can pull the numbers
Don't need the bag.
of how many students are
Um,
enrolled in each of these departments. So we can actually look at real numbers and make decisions from there. This might help to, because we're not really worried about the folks who have like occupational therapy. That group has over 70 students enrolled, but you might have less than 10 who are currently enrolled in a doctoral program or in a master's program in film.
Mhm.
So we really just, my worry is that even though the entire College of Fine Arts would have technically 5 departments in it, there's still going to be scenarios where like occupational therapy might have less of a voice, but now that I don't want the fine arts people to also still get overran because they have such a small college. The whole college itself is small, or even like hospitality is another good example. They have hospitality management and hotel administration tracks. And that's it. They set up the 2 tracks so they would have a person. But if liberal arts gets 5 seats and the hospitality gets 1 seat, how does that work? Does that college now have less of a say? And I mean, I guess it kind of works that way now where we have a seat for everybody in liberal arts. Technically, so that entire
Yeah,
college
this would actually be
or both.
expanding
Yeah.
representation for the colleges or schools that have very few departments,
Mhm.
as long as those departments have a decent sized enrollment.
Honestly, Devin, I think that's your counter argument to people who are worried about the representation.
Mhm.
Just take it back to the college level.
All right. If we do not mind, can I take maybe 7 more minutes of everyone's time to go a little bit through Article 3?
Okay.
Of the Constitution?
Is it all right for you, Baylor?
Yes, I'll probably head out by 11:30 at the latest.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, I just want to go through a couple more sections just so that once it's time to actually submit our Constitution for approval, we at least got through some of this already. All right. So yeah, I think last time, oh, I think I froze. Oh, no, there we go. Okay. So I think last time we had just finished out with the chair of the council stuff. So Article 3 is a new article, the executive branch. Section 1, powers of the executive branch. Oh yeah, and at any time, if anyone has any comments or would like to see a revision or something, just shout it out, and I'll stop and address it. Article 3, Section 1 says that the powers of the executive branch are all executive powers of the GPSA herein shall be vested in the executive branch of the GPSA. The executive branch shall enforce resolutions adopted by the GPSA Council and shall actively advocate for positions established in policy statements and resolutions adopted by the GPSA Council. That's repetitive. The executive branch shall carry out programs authorized by the GPSA Council and shall make no substantive changes to the program's operations without approval from Council. The executive branch shall have the power to liaise with UNLV, NSHE, or other Nevada agencies. The executive branch shall guide the overall mission of the GPSA and develop its yearly goals, but the goals of the executive branch need not be the goals of the legislative branch. The executive branch shall award scholarships, research grants, and travel allowances based on the scholastic merit and/or financial needs of GPSA members. This is essentially language we adopted already in the Constitution approved by our council, and this is the main charge of the executive branch. Do you have any comments or questions, anything that people want to add to the broad powers of the executive branch?
Let me just read it real quick myself one more time. How do we enforce resolutions?
Essentially just carrying out, if there's anything that the resolutions would require the executive board to do. Some resolutions say like this must be sent over to the president of UNLV, must be sent over to the chancellor. That would be the execution or the enforcement of the resolution. Or if anything,
Advocating for the decision?
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So like after our credit card fee resolution adopted earlier this year, I'd had the power to more aggressively push against that proposal because of the resolution.
Gotcha. Okay. I also like the part on the programs.
Oh, substantive changes.
Yeah, because I mean, every time we do a new program, we pretty much change the operating policy and take it to council. The part about 5A confuses me.
Yeah, I put this in here basically just to say that the goals of the executive branch, or if the goals that are established by the executive branch conflict with the goals of the elected members of the council, that they don't necessarily have to be the same. I can take it out. Um,
It's just,
yeah,
is there anywhere else in the Constitution that we talk about the annual goals?
no, I don't think so.
Because I know that GPSA, like we have, like the executive board has to develop the annual goals and then they take them to council for approval. So the goals of the entire association are decided on between both groups.
Yeah, I don't think we have any. We don't have. It might be in the bylaws, but I don't think it's in the Constitution.
Okay, because I can never remember what's in the bylaws versus what's in the Constitution, like which one's where. It's like I know it exists somewhere. Um, I think for the Constitution, I think we take it out because it's really
Okay,
hard to, houses divided and all that.
5 also, or should we
No,
keep that?
I think keep 5. The executive branch
Okay,
shall guide the overall mission. Yeah, it knows what the mission is. The mission statement is already established in the Constitution, and GPSA develops its yearly goals. And then the bylaws already have
all
how
right,
those goals get decided on between the executive branch, and then the council basically approves them.
cool. Any other comments on Article 3, Section 1?
Not on my end, no.
I think we just need to add, let's see, sorry, executive branch shall guide the overall mission. The executive branch shall award scholarships, gracious grant travel allowances, like spouse to marry, and honestly, I'm just trying to see if there's anything missing. The line 5 is good because it already speaks to the mission. The mission already talks about, fostering community, service, advocacy. It already talks about all of those things. So because the mission statement already says that, and number 5 basically says that, that's helpful. So if you want to do events, communications, things like talking with the student body, all of that stuff, this ties it together. And then number 6 is helpful as well. So award scholarships, research grants, and travel allowances. Yeah.
And I do, I think, talk a little bit more about the powers throughout the rest of the article. So if there's anything we come across, we can add it back in later. All right. Article 3, Section 2, Executive Branch Membership. Executive Board of the GPSA. The Executive Board shall consist of the President, Vice President, Treasurer, and Secretary. Members of the GPSA Exec Board shall also be referred to as the Executive Officers, just so that we have just so we have clarification if there are any questions on terminology. Sub 2, President's Cabinet of the GPSA. The President's Cabinet shall advise the President and execute the GPSA's mission and programs. The Cabinet shall consist of the GPSA President, Vice President, Division Directors, and Associate Directors, and other members as defined by the GPSA bylaws. Essentially, I want to give our bylaws the ability to toy with that a little bit if we needed to, but constitutionally, this is what the President's Cabinet shall be defined as. And then the president shall have the power to nominate directors and associate directors, which shall be subject to a vote of confirmation by the GPSA Council through simple majority. Any questions on subs 1 or 2?
I'm sorry, I'm still reading. The president shall have. Will you add Attorney General to 2B? It's like GPSA president, vice president, yeah, division directors. And also, let's take out associate directors, just because I don't want it to be too confusing as to who leads a certain area. But you also have that line in there about, and as defined by the bylaws. So at least it hits the core of like the division leads are president's cabinet advisees.
Oh, got it.
As defined by the bylaws. And the attorney general, okay. The president shall have the power to nominate directors and associate directors, yes, which shall be subject to vote confirmation of council. It's the majority vote the council is required for cabinet nominations. My other question on this section, especially 2B, because under open meeting law, even though we're trying to say that these guys don't have to, basically we're defining a group that they might look at as open meeting law might consider a committee. So if the group meets and they discuss something that could lead to a decision, I don't want it to be something that gets like chastised as not being held to open meeting law. So I do think we need to add a line very similar to the current, like the US Senate or the US President's cabinet, the US cabinet, sorry, where they don't vote on anything.
I do have, here we go. Section 8, very at the bottom here. I was like, I know I have it somewhere. General executive board meetings and their purpose shall be held to review the goals of the GPSA and to discuss events and programs. Shall address any concerns of the institution. Shall be used for executive functions of the GPSA and the maintenance of GPSA's programs. May make endorsements of items brought for consideration to the GPSA council or committees. The board shall not adopt a resolution, policy statement, or make a decision on behalf of the council. I could add it down there.
I think it would make more sense to put it up higher, just so it's right, like just a statement that this, how do we phrase it? How would we phrase it? I find some language, just cabinet, all right, so here's, according to Gemini, the president's cabinet members serve at the pleasure of the president, and their function is to advise the president on subjects relating to their respective departments. The president makes the final decisions. Cabinet members are expected to support those decisions, or they can be dismissed. The concept of so they have to be confirmed by the Senate, and it's the 25th Amendment. Okay, it's not. But okay, so it's right here. It says its role is purely advisory. Is purely advisory. So the here's some other language from the internet. I'm just gonna throw it in the chat real quick. Take what you will.
Oh no, I don't know where my chat went.
Oh, I know, I hate that when your screen.
Oh, here we go.
Here's something too.
So it makes final decisions. Cabinet members are expected to support those decisions. The president's cabinet is an advisory body. Is a purely advisory body to the
Yeah.
president and execute the GPC's missions and programs. And then this one, I'll just make a separate. just clarifying that members of the President's Cabinet shall not have voting power in the Executive Board, aside from the Chief. President. All right, how are those updates?
Oh, here, I just keep, here, I'm giving you a little drop down of things we could possibly add to outline things in the Constitution, sorry. And. All right, here, key functions, advisory body, executive leadership, policy input. Oh, sorry, yeah, and then. Yeah, executive leadership would be executing their spaces, their roles. Okay, done. Sorry, where do we write it? I'm looking at the screen share now. It's looking at a different screen. Sorry. Okay, the President's Cabinet GPSA purely. Honestly, I think this should go up in the President's Cabinet section where you established it.
This is where I established it.
Oh, this is it. Sorry. I thought this was the area where you talk about meetings and stuff.
Oh, no, sorry. Yeah, this is section 2.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. President's Cabinet. Members of the cabinet shall not have voting power on. I also mean that for 2C, like they shouldn't have the power, like when the whole cabinet gets together, they don't vote on anything as a group, not just on the executive board, but like as a cabinet, they do not vote.
Yeah.
Actually, no. Just
So yeah,
flat out.
meetings of the president cabinet shall not result in actionable decision, or actually we could say meetings of the president cabinet are, where'd you say? President's cabinet is purely advisory. Maybe we could put up in 2A, the president's cabinet is purely advisory body to the president and executes the GPSA's mission and programs. Meetings of the president's cabinet shall not result in actual decisions.
I like that.
Yeah, you think that's okay as 2A combined, or should that be separate? Is that okay?
I just put it into a subsection.
Lovely, okay.
Cool. Just to finish out section 2 then, because Baylor has to leave in a few minutes. Simple majority vote is required for cabinet nominations. Okay, and then directors and associate directors of GPSA divisions, excluding the vice president, serve at the discretion of the president and may be removed by the president. The president must transmit an executive order with the reasoning for removal to the executive board and council. That's essentially just they serve at the pleasure of the president.
Beautiful.
All right. Appointment and duties of chief of staff. I kept this in here just in case anyone ever wants to bring this position back. It's harder to add something back to the Constitution than to suspend something, so might as well just keep it here. Appointment and duties of chief of staff. President may appoint the chief of staff to serve for the duration of the president's term. The president's nomination of a chief of staff is subject to executive board approval. The reason executive board approval is because technically chief of staffs don't even have to get appointed or nominated by anyone. They just get hired by the person that is running the organization. So this is like my way of making sure that the chief of staff is at least liked by the executive officers, and that the president doesn't just hire someone that the rest of the people are not going to get along with. But yeah, so the president's nomination of chief of staff is subject to executive board approval by simple majority vote. The chief of staff serves at the discretion of the president and may be removed by the president. The president must transmit an executive order with the reason for removal to the executive board and council. Compensation for the chief of staff service shall be determined by the operating budget approved annually by the council. And lastly, the Chief of Staff's duties will be outlined via memorandum of understanding in accordance with the GPSA bylaws. So yeah, just getting the framework for whoever is the president to essentially hire or nominate someone. That nomination ultimately goes to the executive board. And then, of course, the executive board can't say what the chief of staff is going to be paid. That is ultimately a decision of the Ways and Means Committee and the full GPSA Council. Any questions on chief of staff?
Sorry, this might be a silly question, but do
Mhm.
we have in the Constitution somewhere that outlines that the membership of the executive branch are students? Like, do we have somewhere in here that says like the membership of these areas are going to be graduate professionals? Maybe it's already in here somewhere, but like for example, professional staff, faculty advisors. I feel like there should be sections on those in the Constitution. Maybe there already are, or maybe that's in the bylaws.
Not for the president's cabinet because that's all new. But for executive branch specifically, we do say that you have to be a currently enrolled student to run.
Okay, good. All right, cool. So
Um,
executive branch membership, it should be kind of implied, like
Mhm.
be a member of the branch, you probably need to be a student.
And we could put that also in the bylaws
Okay.
for cabinet specifically. Oh yeah, and then actual elections of officers. Most of this, this will be our last little section, because most of this is already what we had
Mhm.
previously is just grammar stuff. Election of officers. The officers shall be admitted graduate and/or professional students, and as such be members of the GPSA, but need not be representatives of the council. Officers must be able to actively participate in the daily operations, programs, and initiatives relating to UNLV and the NSHU system. The GPSA membership, consisting of all currently enrolled graduate professional students, shall elect the officers during the month of April of each year. A simple plurality will determine each elected official in accordance with the bylaws. And that's all, that's the system that we already have. There's no change there. The GPSA Council shall swear in the new officers at the regular May meeting in accordance with the GPSA bylaws. The officers shall serve in their elected position from the day of swearing in until the next regularly scheduled May meeting of the GPSA Council. We were a little bit last year when we were dealing with this language, we didn't know exactly how to word it, but I think this is probably the best way we could arrange it. We originally said from the first day of May to the last day of April, and then we said, well, what happens when, there's a May meeting that doesn't occur for about a week after that? So this was our way of just saying your term of office is from the day that you get sworn in until the next actual swearing in ceremony, that following May. Any questions at all on elections of officers or qualifications?
I think it sounds thorough. I don't think there's any major concerns I have with this section.
Thank you. Any other thoughts or comments? He was good. All right. So I will go ahead and get us out of here a little bit early, or at least a little bit early to 11:30. So in the minutes here, if you could just note Article 3, Section 4 is where we're going to pick up from. Yep. Okay.
I'm sorry, I have one quick
Oh,
thought. I'm so sorry.
uh,
I was just thinking about like when people are actually put into the system, I do need to have to use like specific dates and using May 1st, April 30th. I'm so sorry. I think we keep the part about them swearing in and being officially sworn in, but just for like the business processes side, keeping it May 1st to April 30th is like the official terms, and then the officers shall serve in their roles until the next regularly scheduled council meeting. Can we separate those? Like make it
could what
just
would be,
like just add a separate line under that, like where it says like they're sworn in at the next regularly scheduled May count meeting of the council, and then have a line in there like the official dates of term are May 1st through April 30th. First day of April through the last day of first day of May through the last day of April, but then like they're like then the Constitution still says that they're expected to serve through the May council meeting. I know we have to think about that a little bit more, I guess, but I still need dates to stick with it for business, for literally just for like the hiring dates, and having them movable is a challenge.
how many days in April? 30th? 30?
30, yeah.
The official term of service for elected members of the executive board shall be May 1st to April 30th of the following year.
Yeah, but then like, and then that other line basically expects them to still be at the May meeting. That
Mhm.
they're sworn in at that May meeting. But like all the transitions and everything happen on May 1.
Okay. Yeah, I added that down into Article 3, Section 3, Sub 3BI.
Thank you. Thank you. Perfect.
Mhm. All right. I will close out new business. Actually, no. Do we have any new business items before I close out new business? Seeing none and hearing none, I will now move into announcements. I have not scheduled an actual date yet for our next Constitution and Bylaws Committee meeting, but it should be sometime in early January. That'll give me at least 2 or 3 weeks to be able to put together a short proposal, put together a memo as well for electoral stuff, and that should be a big point of discussion for us next time. But I will also reach out to you all if, in a few days just to get availability for early January for a meeting. Any other announcements?
Happy holidays, everybody.
Oh, thank you. You too.
Thank you guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Happy holidays. Take care.
Hey, thanks, Devin.
Oh, wait, we haven't adjourned yet. I
Oh,
still need to
sorry.
get through this. It was just announcements. All right, going now into item 9, hearing no other announcements. Is there any public comment at this time in accordance with the notation regarding public comment mentioned at the beginning of this meeting? Seeing none and hearing none, I will go ahead and adjourn this meeting at 11:27 a.m. Now we can leave. Thank you all.
no worries. Thank you. Happy holidays, everyone.
Happy holidays. Bye-bye.
Bye.